I've always been drawn to urban legends. The scarier, the better. So, when my friends and I planned a trip to Japan last summer, I knew exactly what I wanted to see: the infamous Inunaki Tunnel. It's not a place you'd find in travel guides, and for good reason. The tunnel, deep in the mountains of Fukuoka, is said to be cursed, haunted by the spirits of those who died there, or worse, by something far more sinister. The stories surrounding the tunnel are chilling. Some say that anyone who enters never comes back. Others claim to have heard disembodied voices or seen figures lurking in the darkness. People talk about how electronic devices malfunction near the tunnel, and the village near the entrance is said to be lawless, with a sign at the entrance that reads, "The laws of Japan do not apply here." Of course, I didn't believe any of it. It was just another ghost story, or so I thought. But that was before we decided to go. It was late afternoon when we reached the tunnel. The air had grown thick with humidity, and the sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the dense forest. The tunnel loomed ahead of us, hidden in the trees like a dark, gaping mouth. The road leading up to it was crumbling, overgrown with weeds and vines, as though the forest itself was trying to reclaim it. As we approached, the first thing I noticed was the silence. It wasn't the peaceful kind of quiet you'd expect from the mountains. This was oppressive, an unnatural stillness, as if the whole area was holding its breath. The closer we got, the more uneasy I felt. We parked the car just outside the entrance, the headlights cutting through the growing darkness. My friends, Haru, Rika, and Kenji, were all quiet now, their earlier excitement fading as the reality of where we were set in. The tunnel stretched out before us, its black entrance seeming to swallow the light. Haru laughed nervously, trying to lighten the mood. "Come on, guys, it's just a tunnel. We'll take some pictures, scare ourselves a little, and head back. No big deal." But I could see the hesitation in his eyes. None of us really wanted to go in. As we stood there, debating whether or not to go inside, I heard it, a faint, low howl carried on the wind. It was distant at first, almost like an animal, but there was something off about it, something human. "Did you guys hear that?" Rika asked, her voice trembling. We all stopped, listening. The howl came again, louder this time, echoing off the walls of the tunnel. It was a mournful, chilling sound that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. "It's just the wind," Kenji said, but even he didn't sound convinced. I looked at the tunnel entrance, the darkness within it impenetrable. Part of me wanted to turn around and leave, but my curiosity got the better of me. We had come all this way, and I wasn't going to chicken out now. "Let's go," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. We stepped into the tunnel, our footsteps echoing loudly off the damp walls. The air inside was colder, and with each step, the temperature seemed to drop even more. The beam of my flashlight barely cut through the darkness, revealing only the cracked, moss-covered walls and the occasional graffiti left by other thrill-seekers. As we ventured deeper, the howling grew louder, reverberating off the walls. It wasn't just wind, it was something else, something alive, but not human. "Let's take some pictures and get out of here," Rika whispered, her voice tight with fear. We gathered in the center of the tunnel, the cold seeping into our bones. Kenji snapped a few pictures with his phone, and Haru shone his flashlight around, illuminating the tunnel walls. The beam of light fell on something up ahead, a figure standing motionless in the darkness. I froze, my heart hammering in my chest. It was too dark to see clearly, but it was there, a person, or at least something that looked like one. "Who's there?" Haru called out, his voice echoing through the tunnel. The figure didn't move. We stood there, paralyzed with fear, staring at the shadowy figure, and then, without warning, the figure began to move, slowly, deliberately, stepping toward us. The howling grew louder, filling the tunnel with a deafening, animalistic wail. It was coming from the figure. I could feel the sound vibrating through my chest, rattling my bones. "Run!" I shouted, but my voice was swallowed by the howling. We turned and bolted for the exit, our footsteps pounding against the concrete. The air grew colder, the darkness pressing in on us as the howling followed, growing more frantic, more desperate. I glanced back over my shoulder, my heart nearly stopping. The figure was closer now, moving faster than any human should be able to. Its face was twisted, distorted, its mouth stretched wide in an unnatural scream. But its eyes were hollow, empty. My flashlight flickered and died, plunging us into complete darkness. "Keep running!" Haru shouted, his voice barely audible over the howling. We reached the entrance just as the last light of day was fading. We stumbled out of the tunnel, gasping for breath, the howling finally fading behind us. We didn't stop until we reached the car. We slammed the doors shut, our hands shaking, our bodies drenched in cold sweat. The tunnel loomed in the distance, dark and silent once again. Kenji fumbled with his phone, pulling up the pictures he had taken. His hands trembled as he scrolled through them, his face growing paler with each passing second. "Look," he whispered, turning the phone toward us. In every picture, the figure was there, standing behind us, its face growing clearer in each shot. But in the last picture, it was right behind me, its hollow eyes staring into mine, its mouth wide open in a silent scream. None of us spoke the entire drive back. We left the mountains behind, but the memory of that night clung to us, chilling us to the bone. I haven't been able to sleep since that night. Every time I close my eyes, I hear it, the howling growing louder, closer. And in the silence of my apartment, I sometimes see a shadow flickering just at the edge of my vision. The tunnel is still there, waiting, and whatever we saw, it's still watching.